My name is Susie, and at 29, I owned a $480K beach house that was supposed to be my sanctuary. It was the physical proof of every 70-hour work week, every sacrifice, every extra project I had taken on since college. It was mine. Not an investment, not a rental. Mine. Then, the violation. The absolute arrogant disregard for my ownership, my boundaries, my entire adult life. We're moving in Friday. My brother Tyler announced over speakerphone, his voice casual, entitled, "Mom already agreed." I stared at my cell phone, sitting on my desk in Nashville. Moving into where? What are you talking about, Tyler? I asked, forcing myself to stay calm, even though my pulse was already racing. Your beach house. Mom said you barely use it anyway, and Jenna and I need a place while we look for something permanent. She already gave us the security code. My blood ran cold. The sheer audacity, the sickening entitlement. Tyler, nobody asked me about this, I said, my voice tight. That house is mine. I own it. He actually laughed. Come on, Susie, don't be like that. It's just temporary. Mom said you'd understand. Family helps family, right? I hung up without another word, my hands shaking. I immediately grabbed my laptop and opened the security app for the house. The motion sensors, cameras, everything was state-of-the-art. My phone buzzed. Mom. Susie. Honey. Tyler told me you were upset. She started before I could even say hello. I don't understand why you're making such a big deal about this. He's your brother. He needs help. He needs to ask me first, I said, my jaw clenched. It's my house, Mom, not yours to give away. Don't be selfish, she snapped. And there it was, the tone that had followed me my entire life. You have so much, and Tyler is struggling. His lease is up, and they need somewhere to stay. You're hardly ever there anyway. That wasn't the point. The point was that nobody had asked. Nobody had considered that maybe I wanted to use my own property, that maybe I had plans, that maybe I deserved to be consulted about my own house. Mom, the answer is no. He can't move in. Well, it's too late now. I already gave him the code and they're packing as we speak. Tyler said they'll be there Friday afternoon. I closed my eyes, trying to steady my breathing. This was classic. My whole life. Tyler had been the one who needed saving. Failed business ventures, credit card debt, job hopping. And every single time, Mom swooped in to fix it, usually at my expense. When I was 16, she borrowed the $3,000 I had saved from my part-time job to help Tyler pay off his car loan. He was 21 and had wrecked his credit. I never saw that money again. When I graduated college, she asked me to co-sign an apartment lease for him. I refused, and she didn't speak to me for 2 months. Mom, if Tyler shows up at that house, I'm calling the police. You wouldn't dare, she said, her voice dropping to something cold. He's your brother. Susie. Your own flesh and blood. What kind of person threatens their family with police? The kind who's tired of being walked over, I said, and hung up. I sat there in my office, surrounded by campaign mock-ups, feeling that old familiar knot in my stomach. But something felt different this time. Maybe it was the fact that I had actually achieved something significant. Maybe it was the exhaustion of always being the responsible one, the one expected to sacrifice. Maybe it was just that I had finally reached my limit. I opened my security app again and changed all the access codes. Then I enabled the trespassing alert protocol. If anyone tried to enter without authorization, the system would automatically record video, sound an alarm, and send alerts to both my phone and the local police department. My phone buzzed again. Tyler. What the hell, Susie? The code doesn't work. That's because I changed it. Why would you do that? We're already on the road. We have a U-Haul full of our stuff. Then you should turn around. I never gave you permission to move into my house, Mom said. Mom doesn't own the house, Tyler. I do. And I'm telling you no. You're being ridiculous. We're coming anyway. We'll figure it out when we get there. The call ended. They were coming anyway. Of course they were. Because in my family, my boundaries had never mattered. My wants had never mattered. I was just supposed to be grateful to help, to give, to accommodate. I had worked too hard, sacrificed too much to let anyone, even family, just take what was mine. The rest of Wednesday crawled by. I couldn't focus on work, couldn't stop checking my phone every 5 minutes. Tyler didn't call again. Neither did Mom. The silence felt ominous, like the calm before something terrible. By Thursday morning, I still hadn't heard anything. I tried calling Tyler, but he didn't answer. Same with Mom. They were freezing me out, probably hoping I would cave under the pressure of being the bad guy. It was an old tactic, one they had used successfully for years. When I was 23, fresh out of college and barely making ends meet, Mom had called me crying. Tyler had gotten fired from another job and couldn't make rent. Could I help just this once? I had given her $800 I desperately needed for my own bills. I ate ramen for 6 weeks and picked up extra freelance work to make up the difference. Tyler never thanked me. He never even acknowledged it had happened. The pattern repeated itself over and over. My graduation money went to Tyler's security deposit. My small inheritance from our grandmother went to Tyler's credit card debt that he swore he'd pay back. He never did. And when I finally started setting boundaries, I became the selfish one, the heartless sister who didn't care about family. Thursday afternoon, my phone finally rang. Unknown number. Hello, is this Susie? A woman's voice. Unfamiliar. Yes. Who's this? This is Jenna, Tyler's girlfriend. I had met Jenna maybe 3 times. Look, I need to talk to you about this house situation. Her voice was strained, nervous. Tyler told me what's going on, and I just want you to know that I didn't know he hadn't asked you first. I sat up straighter. You didn't? No. He told me you had offered the place to us while we looked for an apartment. He said you were happy to help out. She paused. But then he mentioned the code wasn't working, and when I pressed him about it, he finally admitted, you never actually agreed to any of this. Relief flooded through me, quickly followed by cold anger. Of course Tyler had lied. Of course he had manipulated the situation to make himself look better. Jenna, I appreciate you calling, I said carefully. But yeah, nobody asked me. I found out when Tyler called and told me they were moving in. I'm so sorry, she said, and she sounded genuinely distressed. I told him we should just find something else, but he's insisting we go through with it anyway. He says you're overreacting, and that you'll come around once we're actually there. My blood pressure spiked. That's not going to happen. I know. I get it. It's your house. She hesitated. But he's not going to back down. He's been telling everyone you're being selfish, and your mom is backing him up. They're already planning to show up tomorrow. If they show up, the police will be called automatically, I said flatly. I have a security system with trespassing alerts. Seriously? Seriously? Wow. She let out a breath. Okay. I'm going to try to talk him out of this. But Susie, you should know that he's really mad. He's saying things about how you've always thought you were better than him. How you flaunt your success while he struggles. I laughed bitterly. I worked for what I have. He's had just as many opportunities. I know, Jenna said quietly. Look, I have to go, but I wanted to give you a heads up. I don't think this is going to end well. After she hung up, I sat in my car in the parking lot of my apartment building, staring at nothing. The whole situation was absurd. I shouldn't have to defend my right to my own property. But that was the thing about family dynamics. Logic didn't matter. Fairness didn't matter. It was all about roles, and my role had always been the responsible one who gave and gave and gave. That night, I barely slept. I kept checking the security app, half expecting to see Tyler's car pulling into the driveway in the middle of the night. Friday morning arrived with gray skies and drizzle. I called in sick to work, something I rarely did, and spent the morning pacing my apartment. My phone stayed silent. No calls from Tyler, no texts from Mom, nothing. The quiet was a psychological weapon. At 11 a.m., my phone exploded with notifications. The security system had been triggered. Motion detected, trespassing recorded. I grabbed my laptop and pulled up the live feed. My stomach dropped. Tyler's truck was in the driveway, and he wasn't alone. Mom was there too, along with Jenna and what looked like 2 other people I didn't recognize. They were unloading boxes from a U-Haul trailer. The alarm was blaring. I watched the live feed on my laptop. My stomach dropped. Tyler's truck was in the driveway, and he wasn't alone. Mom was there too, along with Jenna and what looked like 2 other people I didn't recognize. They were unloading boxes from a U-Haul trailer. The alarm was blaring. I could see it on the video feed. I could see Mom covering her ears and Tyler yelling something at his phone. The automated message was playing on loop. Warning. Unauthorized entry detected. Police have been notified. My phone rang. It was Tyler, shouting over the noise. Turn off the alarm. No, Susie, this is insane. We're family. You're trespassing, Tyler. I told you not to come. Mom gave us permission. Mom doesn't own the house. I do. And I told you no. I was shaking now, adrenaline flooding my system. The feed showed Mom trying the front door, but it was locked. They had thought changing the keypad code would be enough. But I had also engaged the deadbolts remotely. Nobody was getting inside without breaking a window, and I knew they wouldn't go that far. Or would they? Just let us in and we can talk about this like adults, Tyler said, his voice taking on that condescending tone he always used when he thought he was being reasonable. There's nothing to talk about. Leave or wait for the police. Your choice. I watched on the camera as Tyler relayed this to the group. Mom's face went red. She marched up to the front door and started pounding on it with her fist, screaming something I couldn't hear over the alarm. Then I saw it. Tyler had picked up something from the ground, a rock. He was weighing it in his hand, looking at the window. Tyler, don't, I said into the phone, my voice deadly calm. If you break that window, it's not just trespassing anymore. It's breaking and entering. That's a felony. You're being dramatic, he said, but he put the rock down. The sound of sirens cut through the alarm. Police were pulling up to the house. The next hour was chaos viewed through a camera lens. I watched as 2 police officers approached the group. Mom immediately launched into what I could only assume was her version of events, gesturing wildly at the house. Tyler stood with his arms crossed, looking defiant. Jenna hung back, looking miserable. One of the officers made a phone call. Minutes later, my phone rang. Hello, this is Officer Davidson with Wilmington Police. Am I speaking to Susie? Yes, that's me. Ma'am, I'm at your property on Ocean View Drive. Can you verify that you're the owner and that these individuals don't have permission to be here? I walked him through everything. The timeline, the phone calls, the fact that I had explicitly told them not to come. My mother doesn't have authority to give that permission, I said firmly. I'm the sole owner. I have the deed. I can send it to you right now if you need proof. That won't be necessary. I can verify ownership through county records, he replied. There was a pause. Ma'am, do you want to press charges for trespassing? My heart hammered in my chest. This was it, the point of no return. If I said yes, there would be no going back. My family would never forgive me. I would be cut off, labeled as the villain, the one who chose property over family. But if I said no, this would happen again and again and again. Yes, I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. I want to press charges against all of them. Through the camera feed, I watched Officer Davidson relay this information. Mom's face went from red to white. Tyler started yelling, pointing at the camera mounted under the eaves. He had just realized I was watching everything. Mom walked up to the camera and stared directly into it. Susie, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the audio. If you do this, you're dead to me. Do you hear me? You're not my daughter anymore. She's making her choice, Tyler added, moving to stand beside Mom. Let her live with it. Officer Davidson was explaining something to them, holding out what looked like citations. The whole group started loading everything back into the U-Haul. It took almost an hour. I watched every minute of it, making sure they didn't damage anything out of spite. They just worked in angry silence, occasionally shooting looks at the camera. When they finally drove away, the property looked exactly as it had before they arrived. Except now there were police reports, official records, evidence of what had happened. My phone rang immediately. It was Jenna, her voice hollow. You actually did it. You actually pressed charges against your own family. They committed a crime, I said quietly. I gave them every chance to turn around. Tyler is saying he's going to sue you, that you have plenty of room and you're just being vindictive. Your mom is hysterical. She's saying you've broken her heart, that she can't believe she raised someone so cold. What about what they did to me? I shot back. Did anyone stop to consider that? Did anyone care that they were stealing from me? It's not stealing when it's family. Yes, it is, I said firmly. That's exactly what it is. She hung up. I sat on my couch staring at my laptop screen. Everything was back to normal, except nothing would ever be normal again. I had been crucified in the court of family opinion, painted as the villain, when all I had done was protect what was mine. But underneath the fear and the guilt, something else was stirring, something that felt almost like relief. I had said no. I had held my boundary, and the world hadn't ended. I had chosen myself, even if it cost me everything. The weekend passed in a blur of anxiety and anger. I kept my phone on silent, but I couldn't stop myself from checking it compulsively. The messages piled up. Aunts and uncles I hadn't heard from in years suddenly had opinions about my character. Cousins weighed in. Even my father's brother, who I had maybe spoken to 3 times in my entire life, sent me a lengthy text about family loyalty and forgiveness. Not a single one of them asked for my side of the story. By Monday morning, I had over 60 unread messages and 15 voicemails. I deleted them all without listening or reading. I couldn't function if I let their words into my head. Work was a welcome distraction. I threw myself into a product launch campaign, spending 12 hours at the office, refining copy and coordinating with the design team. Janet, my coworker, noticed my intensity. "You're working yourself to death," she said, dropping pad thai on my desk at 8 p.m. "Whatever's going on, running from it won't help." "I'm not running," I said, even though we both knew that was exactly what I was doing. "I'm just focused." Tuesday brought a new sickening development. I received an email from a lawyer, not Tyler's lawyer, but Mom's. The subject line read, Property dispute and defamation. My stomach dropped as I opened it. The email was professionally worded, but the meaning was clear. Mom was claiming that I had verbally agreed to let Tyler stay at the beach house, that she had acted in good faith as a witness to this agreement, and that I had then not only reneged, but had filed false police reports and damaged her reputation by implying she was party to a crime. She was threatening to sue me for defamation and emotional distress. The amount she was claiming, $75,000. I read the email 3 times, my vision blurring with rage and disbelief. She was actually doing this. She was trying to punish me through the legal system for daring to say no. I forwarded the email to my own lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia, who had helped me with my property investments. Within an hour, she called me. "This is garbage," Patricia said bluntly. "Complete and utter garbage. She has no case. You have security footage, phone records, text messages documenting that you never gave permission. This is a slap suit. Strategic lawsuit against public participation. She's trying to intimidate you into backing down. Can she actually take me to court over this? She can file anything she wants. Doesn't mean a judge will let it proceed. But Susie, even a frivolous lawsuit costs money to defend. She might be banking on you settling just to make it go away." I closed my eyes, pressing my fingers against my temples where a headache was building. How much would it cost to fight it? Could be anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 in legal fees, depending on how aggressive she wants to be. The number hit me like a punch. $30,000 to defend myself against a baseless lawsuit filed by my own mother. "Send her a response," I said quietly. "Make it clear we have documentation, that her claims are false, and that if she proceeds, we'll countersue for legal fees and harassment." "You sure? That's escalating." She escalated the moment she filed this. "I'm just defending myself." My phone buzzed. "Tyler, you got Mom sued now too? Do you have any idea what lawyer fees cost?" I stared at the text, fury building in my chest. The audacity, the absolute audacity of acting like I was the aggressor when they had literally tried to steal my house. "You're pathetic, threatening your own mother." I blocked his number. Then I blocked Mom's number. Then I blocked every family member who had sent me a hateful message over the past few days. By the time I was done, my contact list looked decimated. Janet knocked on my office door. "Hey, there's someone here to see you. Says she's your cousin." My heart sank. "Maya?" "Yeah, that's her." I owed her at least a conversation. "No, it's fine. Send her in." Maya looked different than I remembered. She had an air of confidence I didn't recall from our childhood. "You're getting crucified in the family group chat," she said finally. "It's brutal. They're talking about you like you're some kind of monster. I know. I wanted you to know that I don't believe their version of things. I know Tyler. I know your mom, and I know how they operate." Something in my chest loosened slightly. "Thank you. Tyler did the same thing to me 3 years ago," Maya continued. "Not with a house, but with my car. He borrowed it for 6 weeks, racked up 3 parking tickets, and returned it with a dent. When I asked him to pay for the damage, he told everyone I was being unreasonable and that he couldn't believe I'd prioritize money over family." I stared at her. "I didn't know that. Nobody does, because I didn't press the issue. I just fixed the car myself and stopped lending him anything, but I've regretted that ever since. I should have stood up to him, to all of them. You did the right thing, Susie. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but you did." Tears pricked at my eyes. "Mom's suing me." Of course it is." Maya shook her head in disgust. That's exactly the kind of petty, vindictive move she'd make. She can't control you, so she's trying to punish you. It's working, I said quietly. I feel like the worst person in the world. That's what they want. They want you to feel so guilty that you cave and apologize and go back to being their doormat. Don't give them that satisfaction. By the time she left, I felt less alone. But I also felt something else. Anger. Not the hot, immediate anger from Friday. This was something colder, more calculating. They wanted to play hardball. Fine. I could play hardball. That evening, I sat down at my kitchen table with my laptop and started documenting everything. I could play hardball too. I compiled a detailed timeline that stretched back almost 10 years, going through old text messages, emails, and bank statements. The picture it painted was damning. Over the past decade, I had given my family over $42,000. Not loans, but gifts because Tyler needed help, because Mom was stressed about bills, because they were family and family helped each other. In that same time frame, Tyler had borrowed my car and returned it, damaged 3 times, and he had used my credit card without permission to buy concert tickets. I had normalized all of it, convinced myself that this was just how families worked, and that my resentment was petty. Looking at it all laid out in black and white, I realized something crucial. This wasn't love, this was exploitation. My phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. 5 minutes later, it rang again, same number. I blocked it. Then my work phone rang. How had they gotten that number? I answered. Hello, Susie. It's your Aunt Caroline. Please don't hang up. I should have hung up. What do you want? I want to talk to you about what's happening with your mother and Tyler. Honey, I know you're upset, but this has gone too far. Your mother is beside herself. She's taking on a medication for her blood pressure because of the stress. Then maybe she shouldn't have filed a fake lawsuit against me. She's just trying to protect Tyler. He's really struggling right now, Susie. He and Jenna broke up over this whole thing. Good for Jenna, I thought, but didn't say. That's not my problem, I said instead. Tyler made his choices, but your family, you're supposed to forgive. You're supposed to help each other through hard times. I'm done helping people who only take and never give back. I'm done setting myself on fire to keep other people warm, and I'm especially done being guilted for having boundaries. Your mother was right about you. You have changed. You've become hard, cruel even. If protecting myself makes me cruel, then I guess I'm cruel, I said, and hung up. The manipulation was so obvious now. The guilt, the threats of loneliness, the reframing of abuse as love. Wednesday morning, I received an email from Patricia. Mom had responded to our Pections Kanatapash letter with an even more aggressive stance, now claiming I owed Tyler compensation for the emotional trauma of being arrested. They were upping their lawsuit amount to $100,000. This is getting ridiculous, Patricia wrote. I recommend we file a motion to dismiss and a countersuit for harassment and legal fees, but I need you to be sure you want to go down this road. It's going to get ugly. I wrote back, do it. All of it. That afternoon, I got a call from Wilmington Police. Miss Susie, I'm calling regarding the trespassing incident from last Friday. There's been a development I need to make you aware of. My pulse quickened. What kind of development? Your brother has filed a complaint alleging that you verbally assaulted him during a phone call and made threats against his safety. He's claiming he has witnesses who heard the conversation. That's completely false. I have recordings of our conversations. I never threatened him. You have recordings? I started recording all interactions with my family after they became hostile. Do you still have those recordings? Every single one. I'm going to need you to send those to me. Your brother is trying to build a case that you're the aggressor and that he and your mother are the victims. These recordings could be crucial. I sent him everything. Within 2 hours, Detective Reeves called back. Miss Susie, based on the evidence you've provided, your brother's complaint has been dismissed. In fact, the recordings show multiple instances of harassment and intimidation from both your brother and mother. Would you like to file additional charges? Not at this time, I said, but I want it documented that they made false claims against me. Already done, and Miss Susie, you might want to consider a restraining order. This pattern of behavior suggests escalation. My work phone rang. Janet's extension. Susie, there's someone from corporate here. They want to talk to you in the conference room. My stomach dropped. Corporate? I walked into the conference room. A man introduced himself as Gerald from Human Resources. Miss Susie, We've received some concerning communications regarding your conduct. Specifically, allegations that you've been misusing company resources and engaging in harassment of family members during work hours. That's not true. I've made maybe 3 personal calls from my work phone in the past 6 months, all during my lunch break. I've never used company time for personal issues beyond checking my email. I made a split-second decision. I told them everything: the beach house, the trespassing, the lawsuit, and the escalating harassment. I showed them the recordings, the emails, the text messages. When I finished, Melanie, our regional director, looked furious. "This is harassment," she said flatly. "They're trying to sabotage your career because you set a boundary. I'll make a note in your file that the allegations were investigated and found to be baseless." HR confirmed. After they left, I sat alone in the conference room. They were trying to get me fired. My own family was actively trying to destroy my career. The answer came Thursday evening in a Facebook message from Dorothy, Tyler's ex-girlfriend from 5 years ago. "Your brother did the exact same thing to me that he tried to do to you. He moved into my apartment without asking, and when I tried to make him leave, your mother threatened to sue me for breaking her son's heart. He never paid a dime of rent and stole jewelry from me when he finally left. I filed a police report, but he claimed they were gifts, and I couldn't prove otherwise. Once she said you were very successful but cold, that you had plenty of money but refused to help your struggling family. She made you sound like a villain. One time near the end, I told him he needed to leave, and he punched a hole in my wall. Your mother came over and convinced me not to call the police, said it would ruin his life." I stared at the message. This wasn't just about a beach house. This was a systematic pattern of abuse and exploitation, enabled and protected by my mother. The pattern was clear now. This wasn't just about a beach house. This was about control, about power, about a family dynamic where Tyler was the son and everyone else was expected to orbit around him, sacrificing themselves to keep him comfortable. And I had finally stopped orbiting. Friday morning, I made 3 decisions. First, I hired a private investigator to document any harassment or stalking behavior from Tyler or Mom. If this was going to escalate, I wanted irrefutable evidence. Second, I filed for a restraining order. Patricia helped me prepare the paperwork, and we included Dorothy's statement along with my own documentation. Third, I changed my locks, upgraded my home security system, and installed cameras at my apartment. If they knew where I worked, they knew where I lived. I felt paranoid doing it, felt like I was overreacting. But then I remembered the hole in Dorothy's wall, the stolen jewelry, the escalating lies. Better paranoid than unprepared. That afternoon, Janet knocked on my office door with a strange expression on her face. "There's a man here asking for you. He says he's your brother, but Susie, something about him seems off." My heart started pounding. "If that's your brother, yes. Do you want me to call the police?" I thought about it. He hadn't technically done anything yet. Showing up at someone's workplace wasn't illegal, but combined with everything else, it felt like a threat. "No, but stay close, and if anything happens, call them immediately." I walked to the lobby, my phone recording in my pocket. Tyler was standing near the entrance, looking agitated. Security guard Tom stood a few feet away, watching carefully. "Tyler, what are you doing here?" His face was haggard, like he hadn't slept in days. "We need to talk." "We don't. You need to leave." "Susie, please just give me 5 minutes. I need to explain." "There's nothing to explain. You tried to move into my house without permission. When I said no, you tried to destroy my life. Now you're showing up at my workplace. This is harassment. I'm your brother. I shouldn't need permission to ask for help. You didn't ask, you demanded. There's a difference." People were starting to stare. Tyler's voice dropped low, almost a whisper. "You're going to regret this. You think you're so smart, pressing charges, getting lawyers involved. But Mom's right about you. You've always been selfish. Always thought you were better than me just because you had better grades, a better job. Well, guess what? None of that matters because you're still nothing without family." "Then I guess I'm nothing," I said calmly. "Now leave or I'll have security remove you." His face twisted with rage. For a moment I thought he might actually hit me. Tom must have thought so too because he stepped directly between us. "Sir, you. I need to leave the building now," Tom said firmly. Tyler looked between me and Tom. Then suddenly, his expression changed. The anger melted into something that looked almost like tears. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice breaking. "I didn't mean any of that. I'm just so stressed and Mom's been on me constantly, and everything's falling apart. Can we please just talk like family? It was masterful. The sudden shift from threat to vulnerability, the tears, the plea for understanding. If I hadn't spent the last week documenting his pattern of manipulation, I might have fallen for it. No, I said. We can't. You need to leave. He stared at me for a long moment, and I saw the mask slip just for a second. The tears vanished. His eyes went cold and hard. Then he turned and walked out. Tom waited until Tyler's truck pulled out of the parking lot. Miss Susie, I'm writing up an incident report. That man shouldn't be allowed back on the property. Thank you, Tom. Back in my office, I forwarded the recording to Patricia and Detective Reeves. Then I added a note to my restraining order application. Subject showed up at my workplace and made implicit threats. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You haven't won. This isn't over. I screenshotted it and added it to the evidence file because Dorothy was right. This was far from over, but I was ready now. I had documentation. I had witnesses. I had a paper trail that showed exactly who the aggressor was. And most importantly, I had finally stopped caring whether they loved me, because whatever they felt, it wasn't love. It never had been. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for the following Wednesday. Patricia prepared me thoroughly, walking me through what to expect, what questions might be asked, how to stay calm under pressure. The judge will want to see clear evidence of harassment and a credible threat, she explained. You have both. The recordings alone are damning, but be prepared for your mother and brother to paint themselves as victims. I know they will. That's what they do. Good. Remember that. Don't let them rattle you. Wednesday morning arrived, gray and cold. I dressed in a conservative navy suit, pulled my hair back into a neat bun, and drove to the courthouse with my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. Patricia met me outside. You look professional and put together. That's good. Remember, we're not trying to win a popularity contest. We're presenting facts. Inside the courtroom, I spotted Mom and Tyler sitting with their lawyer on the opposite side. Mom wore a floral dress and had clearly been crying. Her eyes were red and puffy. Tyler sat beside her in an ill-fitting suit, his jaw clenched. When he saw me, his expression darkened. The bailiff called the courtroom to order. Judge Morrison entered, a stern-looking woman in her 60 seconds with sharp eyes that seemed to miss nothing. Case number 2347. Susie petitioning for restraining orders against Tyler and Barbara. Will the petitioner please approach? I stood, my legs shaky. Patricia squeezed my shoulder briefly before I walked to the witness stand. Judge Morrison studied me over her reading glasses. Miss Susie, please state your relationship to the respondents. Barbara is my mother. Tyler is my brother. And you're seeking restraining orders against both of them. Tell me why. I took a breath and began. I walked through the timeline, starting with Tyler's phone call announcing he was moving into my beach house. The judge's expression remained neutral, but she took notes as I spoke. When I got to the part about them showing up despite my explicit refusal, she interrupted. Do you have documentation of this refusal? Yes, Your Honor. Phone records, text messages, and security camera footage. Patricia handed over a binder we had prepared. Judge Morrison flipped through it. When she reached the security footage, stills clear images of Tyler, Mom, and their friends. Unloading boxes while the alarm blared, she paused. These individuals knew they didn't have permission to be on the property. Yes, Your Honor. I told them repeatedly not to come. They came anyway. Continue. I detailed the harassment that followed. The threatening messages, the fake complaints to my employer, Tyler showing up at my workplace, the escalating lawsuit demands. With each revelation, I provided documentation, screenshots, recordings, witness statements. When I mentioned Dorothy and her similar experience with Tyler, Mom's lawyer objected. Your Honor, this is hearsay about unrelated incidents that have no bearing on the current case. Judge Morrison looked unimpressed. I'll allow it. Pattern of behavior is relevant in determining credibility and threat level. Continue, Miss Susie. I finished by describing Tyler's appearance at my office, the veiled threats, the way his demeanor had shifted from rage to false tears and back again. I played the recording. The courtroom was silent as Tyler's voice echoed through the speakers. You're going to regret this. You're still nothing without family. When it ended, Judge Morrison set down her pen. Thank you, Miss Susie. Please remain available. I'd like to hear from the respondents now. Mom's lawyer called her to the stand first. She walked up slowly, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Mrs. Barbara, can you tell the court your version of these events? Mom's voice was soft, trembling. Your Honor, I don't understand how we got here. All I did was try to help my son. Tyler needed a place to stay, and Susie had this beautiful house sitting empty. I thought I was doing the right thing, helping family. Did your daughter give you permission to grant access to her property? Well, not in so many words, but I thought it was understood. Family helps family. I raised her to believe that. Did she ever explicitly tell you not to allow anyone to stay there? Mom hesitated. She was upset when Tyler first mentioned it, but I thought she'd come around. She always does when she calms down. That's not what I asked. Did she tell you no? She might have said something like that, but she didn't mean it. She was just being dramatic. So, she did refuse permission, and you chose to disregard that refusal. I was trying to keep the peace in our family. Tyler needed help, and Susie wasn't being reasonable. Whether her response was reasonable isn't for you to determine, Mrs. Barbara. The property is legally hers. You had no authority to grant access. Judge Morrison made a note. Let's move on to the lawsuit you filed against your daughter. Can you explain the basis of that claim? She humiliated us. She called the police on her own family like we were criminals. She damaged my reputation in the community. People are talking, judging me, because you attempted to access property without permission and were cited for trespassing. That's exactly what the police report states. Judge Morrison's tone was sharp now. Mrs. Barbara, the consequences you're experiencing are the direct result of your own actions. That's not defamation. Mom started crying harder. Next witness. Tyler took the stand looking sullen. His lawyer attempted to paint him as a struggling young man, unfairly persecuted by his successful sister. Judge Morrison wasn't buying it. Mr. Tyler, you showed up at your sister's workplace after she had made it clear she wanted no contact. I just wanted to talk to her. About what? About fixing our relationship by telling her she's nothing without family? By making statements that could reasonably be interpreted as threats? I was upset. I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it? I just meant family is important. She shouldn't throw it away. She didn't throw anything away, Mr. Tyler. She set a boundary, and you and your mother violated it repeatedly. Then when she enforced that boundary, you retaliated with harassment and intimidation. Judge Morrison shuffled her papers. I've seen enough. My heart was pounding as everyone returned to their seats. Judge Morrison took a moment to review her notes. I'm granting the restraining orders, she said flatly. Both Tyler and Barbara are prohibited from contacting Susie directly or indirectly, coming within 500 feet of her residence or workplace, or making any posts on social media that reference her. These orders will remain in effect for 2 years. Mom gasped. Tyler's face went red. Furthermore, Judge Morrison continued, I'm dismissing the defamation lawsuit filed by Barbara as frivolous and without merit. Miss Susie, you may file for recovery of legal fees if you choose. We will, Your Honor, Patricia said. One more thing. Judge Morrison looked directly at Tyler. The recording played today contains what could be interpreted as threatening language. I'm referring this matter to the District Attorney's Office for review of potential criminal charges. Do you understand? Tyler's lawyer stood quickly. Your Honor, my client's statements were made in emotional distress. That's for the DA to determine. This hearing is concluded. The gavel came down. As I walked out of the courtroom, my legs felt like jelly. 2 years. 2 years of court-mandated distance from my family. 2 years of peace. It felt surreal. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. I had won. As I walked out of the courtroom, my legs felt like jelly. Patricia was talking, saying something about this being a complete victory, but I couldn't quite process it. 2 years. 2 years of court-mandated distance from my family. 2 years of peace. It felt surreal. Behind me, I could hear Mom's voice rising. This is wrong. She's my daughter. You can't do this. Her lawyer was trying to calm her down. Tyler was silent, but I could feel his eyes boring into my back. I didn't turn around. Outside the courthouse, Patricia pulled me aside. That went better than I could have hoped. Judge Morrison saw right through their manipulation. And the fact that she's referring Tyler's threats to the DA, that's significant. What does that mean? It means he could face criminal charges for harassment or intimidation. It's up to the prosecutor now, but with the evidence we have, I'd say there's a strong case. I nodded numbly. Part of me felt vindicated, validated, but another part felt hollow. This was my mother, my brother, and I had just gotten a court order to keep them away from me. Susie? Patricia touched my arm. You okay? I don't know. I think so. It's just a lot. Go home. Take the rest of the day off. Process this. And Susie, you did the right thing. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I drove home in a daze, the courthouse growing smaller in my rearview mirror. My phone buzzed constantly. Texts from Maya congratulating me, a voicemail from Janet checking in, several blocked numbers that I assumed were family members. I ignored all of it. At home, I poured myself a glass of wine, even though it was only 0 inches the afternoon. I sat on my couch and stared at the wall, trying to figure out how I felt. Relief. Definitely relief. The knot of anxiety that had been living in my chest for weeks was finally loosening, but also grief. I was grieving the family I had wanted, the one I had spent my whole life hoping would someday see me as valuable. That family didn't exist. Maybe it never had. My phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, the notification appeared. I almost deleted it without listening, but something made me press play. Susie, it's Jenna. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I needed to tell you something. Tyler and I broke up for good this time. After everything that happened, I started seeing him differently. The way he talked about you, the things he said, it scared me. I realized that if I stayed, eventually I'd be in your position. So, I left. I wanted you to know that you were right to stand up to him, and I'm sorry I didn't believe you sooner. I saved the voicemail, added it to my evidence file because even though the restraining order was granted, I knew better than to think this was truly over. The next few days were quiet. Suspiciously quiet. No texts from blocked numbers, no surprise visitors, no anonymous complaints to my employer. It was like the restraining order had actually worked. On Saturday, I drove to Wilmington to check on the beach house. I hadn't been there since before the whole incident, and I needed to see it. Needed to reclaim it as my space. The house looked exactly as I'd left it. Peaceful, beautiful. The ocean stretched out beyond the deck, waves rolling in, steady and eternal. This was mine. I had earned it. And nobody had the right to take it from me. I spent the night there, sleeping soundly for the first time in weeks. Sunday morning, I sat on the deck with coffee and watched the sunrise, feeling something shift inside me. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was reclaiming my life. Monday brought news from Patricia. The DA's office had reviewed the case and decided to press charges against Tyler for criminal harassment. He will be arraigned next month, Patricia stated. They're also looking into the false report he filed about you making threats. Filing false police reports is a crime in North Carolina, she added. He could face jail time. That same afternoon, I received an email from Mom's lawyer. They were dropping the defamation lawsuit entirely and offering to pay my legal fees to date, approximately $12,000. They're trying to avoid the countersuit, Patricia explained when I called her. If we push forward, they could end up owing significantly more. It's a smart move on their part. Should I accept? That's up to you. We could push for more, but it would mean more court appearances, more time invested. Personally, I'd take the money and walk away. You've already won everything that won into Sid. Matters. I thought about it for maybe 10 seconds. Take it. 2 weeks later, a check arrived. $12,000. Not enough to cover the emotional cost of what they'd put me through, but something. A tangible acknowledgement that they'd been wrong. I deposited it and didn't tell anyone in the family about it. Let them wonder. Work became my refuge again. The product launch campaign was a massive success, bringing in 3 new major clients for Velmark Automation. My boss pulled me aside to congratulate me. I know you've been dealing with a lot of personal stuff, he said, but your work hasn't suffered at all. If anything, you've been even more focused. I'm putting you up for a promotion to senior director. You've earned it. The promotion came with a $30,000 raise. I celebrated with Janet and a few other coworkers, letting myself enjoy the moment without guilt. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. 3 months after the restraining order was granted, I received a call from Detective Reeves. Miss Susie, I wanted to update you on Tyler's case. He pleaded guilty to criminal harassment and filing a false police report. He's been sentenced to 6 months probation, a $1,000 fine, and mandatory anger management counseling. That's it. For a first offense, it's fairly standard. But here's the important part. Any violation of his probation or the restraining order will result in immediate jail time. The judge made it very clear that she's watching him. What about my mom? She wasn't charged criminally since she wasn't the primary aggressor, but the restraining order stands, and any violation from her will be prosecuted. After we hung up, I sat with the information. 6 months probation felt light for everything he'd done, but it was something, and more importantly, he now had a criminal record. If he tried to pull this pattern with someone else, they'd be able to find it. I wrote everything up in a detailed post on a survivors forum for people dealing with family abuse. I changed the names and some identifying details, but I laid out the whole story, the beach house, the harassment, the legal battle, the outcome. The responses came flooding in. Thank you for sharing this. I'm dealing with something similar with my sister and needed to hear that standing up to family is possible. This gives me hope. Reading those messages, I realized that my story mattered, not because it was unique, but because it showed that you could survive setting boundaries with toxic family. You could come out the other side intact. Around that same time, I started seeing a therapist. Dr. Karen specialized in family trauma and narcissistic abuse. She helped me understand how I'd been conditioned to prioritize everyone's needs but my own. You've been trained to equate boundaries with cruelty, she explained. As long as you felt guilty for having needs, they could keep taking from you. So, how do I stop feeling guilty? You practice. Every time that guilt comes up, you examine it. Ask yourself, is this conditioned guilt because I'm not performing the role they assigned me? It helped. Slowly, gradually, the guilt started to loosen its grip. 6 months after the restraining order was granted, I got a message from Maya. She was getting married and wanted me at the wedding. Small ceremony. Just close friends and family who actually matter, which means you're invited and Tyler isn't. Mom's losing her mind about it, but I don't care. This is my day, and I want you there. I went to the wedding. It was beautiful and small, held in a garden with about 30 people. I met other cousins who had distanced themselves from the toxic parts of the family over the years. There are more of us than you'd think, one cousin told me over champagne. People who got tired of the drama and just quietly walked away. You're the first one who actually fought back legally, though. That took guts. At the reception, Maya pulled me aside. Thank you for coming. It means everything to me. Thank you for inviting me. You know, Mom tried to get me to uninvite you. Said it would ruin her day to be at an event you were attending. What did you tell her? That she wasn't invited either. Maya grinned. Best decision I ever made. This day has been perfect. Looking around at the celebration, at people who genuinely cared about each other without strings attached, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope for what family could be when it was healthy. A year after the courthouse showdown, I received a letter. Not from Mom or Tyler, they were still under the restraining order. This one was from my Aunt Caroline, the one who had called me cruel. The letter was handwritten, several pages long. In it, she apologized. She explained that she had always known Mom and Tyler's behavior was problematic, but she had been scared to speak up. Watching what they'd done to me and watching me survive it had given her the courage to set her own boundaries. She had recently cut contact with them herself after they tried to manipulate her into taking sides against me. You were right, she wrote, and I'm sorry I tried to make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. You deserved better from all of us. I cried reading that letter, not from sadness, but from validation, from the recognition that I wasn't crazy, that my perception of reality had been accurate all along. I wrote back. We started talking occasionally, rebuilding slowly, carefully, with clear boundaries on both sides. 18 months post-restraining order, I sold the beach house, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. It had served its purpose, proving I could achieve something significant on my own, but keeping it felt like holding onto a symbol rather than enjoying an asset. I used the profit to buy a small cabin in the mountains outside Nashville, somewhere quiet, somewhere I could breathe, somewhere that had never been contaminated by family drama. The cabin became my sanctuary. I spent weekends there, hiking and reading, and learning to be comfortable with silence. Patricia checked in occasionally. You deserve it. You fought hard for your peace. The restraining order was set to expire after 2 years, but both Mom and Tyler petitioned to have it lifted early. Judge Morrison denied their request both times, noting that they had shown no genuine remorse or understanding of their behavior. The respondents continue to frame themselves as victims, she wrote in her denial. Until they demonstrate actual accountability, the protective order will remain in full effect. Tyler struggled after his conviction. The criminal record made it harder for him to find decent jobs. According to Maya, he blamed me for ruining his life. He never once acknowledged that his own choices had consequences. Mom fared slightly better professionally, but suffered socially. Word had spread through their community about what had happened, and many people quietly distanced themselves from her. Both Tyler and Mom remained locked in their victim narratives, convinced that they had been persecuted for trying to help family. Neither of them ever acknowledged the theft, the harassment, the manipulation. As for me, I thrived. The promotion led to another promotion. I became a senior director at 31, one of the youngest in the company's history. I invested in more properties, building wealth, not to prove anything to anyone, but simply because I could. Most importantly, I learned to trust myself, to trust that my needs were valid, that my boundaries were reasonable, that choosing myself wasn't selfish, it was survival. Sometimes late at night at the cabin, I thought about that day in the courthouse. It hadn't been hollow at all. It had been the beginning of my real life, the life where I got to decide who had access to me. The journey to get here had cost me a family, but what I'd gained was something far more valuable. Myself, my peace, my power, my understanding that love without respect isn't love at all. It's just control wearing a prettier name. I kept the security footage from that day they tried to move in. Sometimes I watched it, reminding myself that I had been right to stand firm, that I had nothing to feel guilty about, that protecting myself had been the most important thing I'd ever done. The restraining order would expire eventually. When it did, I knew there was a chance they'd try again. But I also knew something else. I would never let them in again. I had learned that lesson too well, paid for it too dearly. Some bridges, once burned, should stay burned. And I was finally genuinely okay with that. And now, as this painful, necessary story reaches its end, you must understand the final tally. I lost a mother, a brother, and the illusion of a toxic family. But I gained the truth. I gained the strength to stand alone. I gained the power to look at a violation and respond with law, logic, and self-worth. If you are listening to this, and you are being called heartless or selfish for having boundaries, hear this. You do not owe them your money. You do not owe them your loyalty. You owe yourself peace. My revenge wasn't in the destruction of their lives. It was in the construction of mine. It was in the cabin, the promotion, the freedom. It was in the fact that I no longer have to check the locks before I go to sleep. Do not let their shame become your guilt. Let their consequences become your freedom. The bravest thing you can do is calculate your losses, declare the debt settled, and walk toward your sanctuary. If this story resonated with your own struggles for autonomy, please like this video, subscribe to join a community of survivors, and comment below where you are watching from. You are not heartless for protecting what is yours. You are brave. My journey to get here had cost me a family, but what I'd gained was something far more valuable. Myself, my peace, my power. I am Susie, and I am proof that you can fight a decade of abuse with one strong, no,